People ask me, what advice do you have for teachers today? I've been thinking about what hard times these have been for teachers, especially for teachers of young kids. You somehow survive COVID when everything you know how to do is taken from you. And then you have the challenge of kids coming back who've been traumatized, and classes of kids who are really uneven because, of course, their experience during COVID was so uneven. And now, social media has gotten the public all in a stew over the totally false accusation that you've somehow been hoodwinked into not teaching phonics to kids. People are throwing around a lot of shame and a lot of blame. I worry that teachers of young children are feeling attacked and are consequently gripped by fear. You're teaching almost afraid that an inspector is going to come by and seize on you if you make a false move. The problem is, when you're afraid, you become short-sighted. You lose your peripheral vision. Fear's great for repetitive actions like hammering a nail, but it's not great for insight and risk-taking and empathy, for being open about things that confuse you. Then, too, we know that in the end, human beings are mammals. And when we're afraid, we retreat to our dens with those who look and think just like us. When we're afraid, we find it hard to trust anyone. Meanwhile, though, during hard times, it is especially important that we're not alone. I want to tell you a story about my dad, who lived to be 99 and a half. One day, Dad said to me, "Do you want to know what it's like to be 99? I said, "Sure, Dad. What's it like?" And he said, "Well, you wake up in the morning and the first thing you do is you go and check to see if Virginia's still breathing." That's my mom. "And if she is, you get her a cup of coffee in her special cup, and you have another day. And each day is a gift." One day, Dad woke up, and Mom in the bed beside him was jerking and writhing. And my father's a doctor. He knew what was going on, and called my sister, also a doctor, and he said, Joan, Virginia's having a grand mal seizure." And my sister Joan said, "I'll be right over." And she rushed over. And she got there, stood in the doorway of the room, and Dad was sitting there beside Mom, who was lying almost like comatose on the bed. And Joan said to my father, "Is she alive?" And Dad said, "I don't know." And Joan's like, "You don't know?" And Dad said, "I didn't want to check and to find that she's gone and to be alone with it. So I waited till you got here." I get it. We human beings do not want to be alone in the hard parts of life. So what I want to say to you is, first of all, you are not alone. It may seem to you that you are in your particular setting, but there are literally thousands of teachers who are experiencing what you're going through right now, and you just need to reach out. During COVID, we all learned that we can feel surprisingly close and supported even when relationships are virtual, and you can reach out to people all over this country who are experiencing what you're experiencing. But I also want you to know that within your own school, it's just so important that you find teachers who feel as you do, and you make an effort to create a community of practice with those teachers. I'd start by just asking for help, for company. Say to a colleague, "I'd so love to have a thought companion to help me through some of the challenges that kids today are posing. Is there any chance that you want to carve out some time for us to talk together about things that are confusing?" Roland Barthes, who started Harvard's Principal Center, said relationships among teachers are the most important characteristic in a school. He said in some schools, relationships among teachers are like relationships among kids in the sandbox. One has the pail, the other has the shovel, and at no point do they share toys. They talk all the time, but never to each other. In other schools, relationships among teachers are congenial. They talk about, are you watching New Amsterdam? And they talk about a new pizza shop that opened in town, but they don't talk about kids. But in some schools, teaching is collaborative. In those schools, teachers talk about kids as our kids, and they're in and out of each other's classrooms all the time. That's what you need in your school. You have so much more to talk about if you come to know each other's kids, or bring both classes together and co-teach. Above all, I suggest you pull together beside a child and talk together about the wisdom you see in what that child is doing and about ways you can help that child. I find that sometimes rigid pronouncements and doctrines become more tentative and more open when there's a child right there at the center, looking up with trusting eyes, asking, what should I do next? And oh, the peace that comes from being able to say to a colleague, what do you think? And, well, let's try, and let's see how it goes, and then talk about it. You can create that kind of social support for you in your school, and I so hope you do that.